Hello everyone, it's Jackie and I'm doing a tag tutorial today. I need you to bear with me a little bit because I've got a slightly new setup, so I'm hoping that this is in frame and this is the bit I'm going to work in, hopefully. I thought we'd do a sort of simple project today, so I'm going to do this, this tag here that I made for Andrea and Tracy's challenge. Now I'm going to do it in two bits and then try and join it together, which is why I've got this set up, because I'm going to be stopping and starting a little bit. On Angela Kerr's channel, a lot of you will know she's been doing her envelopes, her exciting envelopes. I've done quite a few of those and shared a few with you. She's also done started an inspired by series, which I thought was a really good idea. Like her, I've done a friendship challenge and I've had a lot of entries, and my idea is to take each entry at some point and show you, or try and show you, how I would use the entry as inspiration. So the first one I've picked, and it's just random, they're just how they are in the box. So I've just gone in from front to back. These were sent to me by Manon, who I think is in Canada, French-Canadian. And she sent me 2 cards. And you can actually look at these and get loads of inspiration from them. So you could use hearts, you could use the dry embossing, stamping, there's ribbon, there's heat embossing, there's the colours you could choose. What I chose to focus on was the dry embossing. Not everything, I'm just taking the dry embossing. I was going to use hearts as well, but in the end I didn't do that, and I'll explain to you how this translated into this as best I can. The lace idea was something that I've used before, and that was something that I saw Susie do from Shabby Soul, and I'll put these links underneath this video. Susie is a brilliant artist. Her style is a lot grungier than mine, and the actual tag that she created was quite different, actually. But that was where the lace idea came from. So I suppose I'm combining 2 pieces of inspiration. So the first thing I did was cut my card to 3 inches by 5 3/4. And I've got, I'll show you here, I've got a thinnish bit and a more solid piece. And first thing I want to do is cut the aperture. So I'm going to do that on my big shot. I'm going to try and do it on camera. So I'm going to cut these together. This is my, there's my big shot. This is the die set I'm using. It's, what is it? Gosh, it'll come back to me in a minute. They're well-known die makers. So this is just going to run through my machine like so. I don't know how much of this you will be able to see. And I usually try and go back the other way just to make sure. So that's cut that nicely. Let's just get rid of this. Probably overdone the so what that's done, the washi tape has embedded itself. It's Tim Holtz washi tape. It's embedded itself into the card, which actually looks quite nice. Now I come to look at it. But luckily I have another set. So I'm going to do exactly the same, but I'm going to use a different washi tape to stick it down, maybe a bit of masking tape. I will do that and then I'll come back and show you how I progress it. Okay, so take 2 worked a bit better, and I'll just show you So I've cut the apertures. I'm just going to show you on this one how I do this. I'm going to leave that on because I think it might look quite good. So this is the embossing folder that I'm using. It's an old Cuttlebug embossing folder. So I've just got the length of my card in here. Pop that in there and run that through. Let's just get this out of the way. Okay. So that's the embossing done. So I'm going to go with this one. So the first thing I want to do, this is how I cut it. It's actually like that. And obviously matches exactly. Now, often these die cuts aren't quite symmetrical. And I really want the cut side to show on the back rather than this rough side. So I'm just going to have a little play and see if it matches up. See that I've got a little bit extra there. So if I turn it upside down, it might work better. So I think that's okay. I think we can work with that because we can trim it off appropriately. I'm going to make this one slightly grungier than the previous one. So the first thing I'm going to do is ink in here. And I hope I'm using walnut stain. It looks a bit dark, but I think it's walnut stain. And I also want to very lightly go over this raised embossing. So I'm just going, I'm barely touching that. And I'm using distressing, the original distressing, not the oxide. Either would work. Okay, so that's that one. The next thing we're going to do is put the lace in. So work out which way up I had that. I think it was that way. And I've got this scrap of lace. And I'm just going to stretch this out on here. And I'm going to use art glitter glue, just because it sticks really well. Seems to stick anything really well. So I'm just going around the edge here. Put that on. And I want to just sort of ease it out as I put it on. Just so that when the tag is together, it doesn't look too loose. Okay, and then we're going to put this piece over the top. And to do this, I'm not going to use this glue. You could use this glue. I just haven't got a lot of it left, but I've got some acetone-based glue. So let's just go over this. And again, I want to pay fairly close attention to this edge. I'd like this to stick quite well. I'm going to stitch the edges, so that's not quite so important, but a little bit of glue all over. And I'm going to try and match the aperture up rather than anything else. This acetone glue also gives you a little bit more wriggle time. This art glitter glue is brilliant, but it dries really, really quick. Okay. So it looked pretty on that side as well, probably. So I'm just going to take this bottom edge off. overlaps. Top's all fine. Yep. And I'm going to use my trusty credit card to take the corners off up here. So there's our basic tag. What I'm going to do now is stitch around the edges. I'm going to use a fairly neutral thread. It's a Gutermann thread called, the colour is called Bone. I'm going to do that off camera and then I'll come back and we'll finish it off. Thank you. Okay, let's get these finished. I've stitched round, as you can see. This one I've done with a bit of black soot. This is the one where I messed up with the tape, but you know, you could argue that that looks okay. It's a bit grungier. My black soot is more grey than black, but that's fine because I found some flowers that match. So first thing I'm going to do is my hole at the top. Normally I would have this on a grid so I could see exactly where the middle was, but I'm just going to eyeball it for now. And I've chosen a fairly neutral eyelet to go in there. It's a bit hard, there we go. Okay, I'm going to put a bit of lace along the bottom. I had double lace on the original, but this time I'm just going to put this piece along the bottom. I could have stitched that on. I probably would another time, but for now we'll just glue it. I'd only got, of these flowers, I'd only got one tiny one left. These are 49 and Market, these flowers. I'd got a larger one and I had got a leaf. So I like to make groups of 3 or 5 or whatever. So we'll pop these on something like that. And then I've also done two tiny little tabs using this Stampin' Up punch. I've cut some for the other, where is it? I've cut for the other, and I was just going to show you when I'm, I wanted text on my stamps, on my punches, but I wanted different text for each one. And when I'm doing this, I tend to do it upside down so that I can see what my little tab's going to look like. So we use that one on the black one. So let's pop this tie in the top. I've chosen this scrap of green because it goes with this green leaf. It's a longish piece, so I think I'm going to just tie it in a bow at the top this time. Probably should tie it that way first. So that's quite pretty. I just want to see roughly where I'm going to put these so that I know where I'm going to put my little tabs, because they're going underneath, something like that. Okay, so I'm back to my art glitter glue and I'm remembering that it's going to go over this flower. So one like that. And I've just cut these from tiny scraps of text paper. And this glue will hold these quite firmly. It takes a little bit of time for it to set when it's a big glob like that, but it dries really quickly. Put the leaf in behind. Hold those down for a moment. And there's our finished tag, which is really nice. I put some pearls on the original. I might go back and decide to do that. I'll show you those in a second, but let's just do this one. Obviously, if you've had enough, now's the time to switch off. But I will say, well, if you are still here, thank you for continuing to watch and follow me. I've got some new journals sort of half made maybe. So those I will share those in due course. So let's pop our little tabs on in roughly the same spot. And then we've got 3 little flowers. And I want to leave that little bit of, I don't know, it almost looks like a stamp or a rub-on under there. So that's that. If I'm not in frame, I'm really sorry. I'll try and perfect this because it's nice to be able to break off, and if I use this setup I can not edit exactly, but I can join bits together. So that's that one, and I found this sort of grey sari silk. And I probably fuff with this a little bit to make it prettier. There we are, 2 more aperture lace tags inspired by the very lovely Manon. Thank you, Manon, for entering, and thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.